I'm afraid you hate me after hearing this. The night was quiet, the kind of silence that makes even the stars feel like they're holding their breath. I stood by the open window, looking over the kingdom that once brought me pride, and all I could feel was a heaviness pressing against my chest. The torches flickered along the walls below, and the cold wind brushed against my face, but none of it could numb the storm inside me. I've fought battles, led armies, and carried the weight of a crown since before I even understood what love truly meant. But now I'm afraid that the one battle I cannot win is the one against your heart. You see, there are things about me you don't know, not because I wanted to hide them, but because I feared what they would make you think of me. People call me Prince, but behind the title lies a man who has done things he cannot take back. Choices made not out of cruelty, but out of duty. Every command, every sword drawn, every life affected by my word. They've left marks no one can see, and yet, when I look at you, everything I've built feels like it could crumble in an instant. I've seen fear, I've seen hatred, I've seen loyalty born from power, but I've never seen anything as disarming as your gentleness. That's why I'm terrified, because what if the truth destroys the way you look at me? I remember the first time you smiled at me, how your eyes met mine without fear, how you spoke to me not as a prince, but as a man. I didn't realize then how dangerous that was. You made me want to be someone better, someone worthy. But the truth is, I'm not entirely. I carry sins that the world may never forgive. Alliances, betrayals, and secrets carved into the bones of this castle. If I tell you everything, will you still see me the same? Or will the distance grow until even your voice can't reach me anymore? That thought haunts me more than any blade ever could. Sometimes I wish I could strip away this crown, this name, this legacy that binds me, to live freely, to breathe without the weight of a throne pressing down on my soul. But fate doesn't grant mercy to those born of bloodlines. It ties us to promises we never made and punishments we never earned. You deserve someone untouched by the shadows I walk through every day. And yet, the selfish part of me, the human part, wants you to stay. Wants you to say that even if you hate me after tonight, you once loved me enough to try. So here I am, standing before you, trembling not because I'm weak, but because I've never had so much to lose. If I speak the truth, I might lose you forever. If I stay silent, I'll lose myself. The truth is, I did something that changed everything, something that saved lives, but cost others dearly. It wasn't mercy or malice, it was necessity. And every night since, I've carried their ghosts. You have to know this, even if it turns your heart cold toward me. I'm afraid you'll hate me after hearing this, but I'd rather live with your hatred than your illusion, because at least then, what remains between us will be real. The night was quiet, the kind of silence that makes even the stars feel like they're holding their breath. I stood by the open window, looking over the kingdom that once brought me pride, and all I could feel was a heaviness pressing against my chest. The torches flickered along the walls below, and the cold wind brushed against my face, but none of it could numb the storm inside me. I fought battles, led armies, and carried the weight of a crown since before I even understood what love truly meant. But now I'm afraid that the one battle I cannot win is the one against your heart. There was a time when I believed that duty was everything, that love was a distraction meant for poets, not princes. I was raised to be unbreakable, to make decisions with a steady hand and a heart of stone. But then you walked into my life, and the walls I had built began to tremble. Your laughter echoed in places that had forgotten warmth. Your presence softened the edges of my world. I didn't mean to let you in, I swear I didn't. Yet somehow, you became the only truth I could not command, the only weakness I could not hide. And that is what terrifies me, because when a prince loves, the whole world watches, and when he falls, the world falls with him. Every secret I've buried beneath this palace was meant to protect the throne, but protection often demands sacrifice. There are things I've done in the name of loyalty that still echo in my mind when the night grows too still. I've sealed fates, silenced truths, and carried the guilt of it all beneath a crown that never feels like it fits. The people see gold and glory, but they never see the blood it rests upon. And I know that if I tell you everything, if you knew the cost of the life I lead, you might never look at me with the same light again. Yet I cannot keep you in the dark, not when you deserve honesty more than anyone I've ever known. Do you remember that night in the garden, when you said the moon felt closer when we were together? I wanted to tell you then, to confess what I had done, but your smile stopped me. For a moment, I let myself believe that I could be more than what I was born to be, that I could rewrite my destiny, rewrite my sins, simply by loving you. But fate is cruel, and the truth always demands its due. I know now that love built on silence eventually breaks, no matter how tightly you hold it, and I would rather shatter under your anger than rot beneath your forgiveness built on lies. The secret I've been hiding is not just mine, it belongs to the kingdom. Years ago, I made a choice that changed everything. There was a rebellion brewing, a threat to our people, and I ordered something I swore I never would. I gave the command that led to the burning of a village. I thought it would end the bloodshed, that it would save thousands by sacrificing a few, but the screams of that night still haunt me. I've seen those faces in my dreams, the ones I condemned, and though the world calls me a hero for ending the war, I know I am nothing but a sinner wearing a crown of guilt. When I met you, I saw in your eyes a purity I thought no longer existed in this world. You spoke of peace, of compassion, of second chances. You made me believe that I was still capable of redemption. But how can I ask for forgiveness when I have done the unforgivable? How can I touch your hand knowing the blood that stains mine? You have every right to walk away. And yet, the coward in me prays you won't. I want you to hate me, if that's what it takes for you to be free of me. But I also want you to understand why I did it. Not to justify it, but because I need you to know that I never stopped being human, even when I acted like a monster. If I could go back, I'd burn the crown before I ever let it control me. But life does not offer second chances to men like me. All I have left is this moment, to stand before you, stripped of every lie, every illusion, and let you see the truth for what it is. I don't know if you'll stay or if you'll turn away in silence, but I need you to hear me, to see me not as the prince they made me, but as the man I became because of you. Even if you hate me after this, know that every breath I take from this day forward will still whisper your name. I watched her eyes as I spoke, and with every word I uttered, the light in them seemed to flicker, not fade but tremble, as if torn between belief and disbelief. I wanted to reach for her, to steady that uncertainty, but my hands felt heavier than ever. They were the hands of a ruler who had taken too much, held too tightly, and lost everything that ever mattered. In her silence, I found the weight of my own choices reflected back at me. I had imagined this moment countless times, but nothing could have prepared me for the hollow ache of seeing the person I love trying to decide whether to forgive me or to run from me forever. She didn't speak at first. Her gaze drifted to the window behind me, to the city that glittered below, The same city that had once celebrated me, the same people who would never know what their prince had done in their name. I could almost see the thoughts moving through her, the way her lips parted as if to say something, then closed again. And in that silence, I realized something cruel. Love is not built to survive the truth, not when the truth is soaked in guilt. I wanted to beg her to say anything, to curse me, to hate me, to end the torture of her quiet. But the words froze in my throat because part of me feared that once she spoke, I would lose her entirely. A breeze swept through the chamber, carrying the scent of the roses from the courtyard below, the same roses she had once said reminded her of me. It was almost ironic now how something so beautiful could grow over soil drenched in blood. I turned away, unable to bear the look in her eyes any longer. The crown on my desk caught the moonlight, and for the first time I saw it for what it truly was. Not a symbol of glory, but a chain disguised as gold. I had traded my soul for that piece of metal, believing it was duty, believing it was destiny. And now, it was the only thing standing between me and the life I wished I could have had with her. I heard her footsteps move closer, soft, hesitant, like the world itself was holding its breath. Her voice, when it came, was barely a whisper, fragile, trembling, yet stronger than any blade that had ever cut me. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she asked, and just like that, the walls I had built around my heart crumbled. There was no excuse left that could shield me. "Because I wanted to be the man you believed I was," I said. "Not the one I became." I didn't cry. Princes aren't supposed to. But the burn behind my eyes betrayed me. I felt exposed, stripped of title, stripped of strength, just a man begging silently for a love he no longer deserved. She stood there, looking at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Not the prince, not the legend, but the fractured, bleeding truth of who I was. And in that moment, I realized something deeper than pain. Love doesn't always heal. Sometimes it mirrors the wounds we hide. I could see the battle inside her, the war between her heart and her reason. I wanted to tell her that I didn't expect forgiveness, that I wasn't asking her to stay, but my silence said enough. Because even if she hated me, I needed her to know that every decision I made, every sin I carried, was born from trying to protect the world she lived in. When she finally spoke again, her words cut through me like light through glass. "You've lost so much already," she said softly. "Don't lose yourself too." I didn't know whether that was mercy or goodbye, but it broke something inside me all the same. I wanted to fall to my knees, to hold her hand one last time, to tell her that without her, the man inside the prince would vanish completely. But I didn't move. I let her turn away, her shadow slipping past me like smoke. And in that quiet exit, I felt the final thread of hope unravel inside my chest. The door closed behind her, and the world fell silent again. The night stretched endlessly, the stars indifferent to the ruin beneath them. I walked to the window where I had first stood and watched the horizon for a sign that she might return. But there was none, only the cold wind whispering through the empty halls of the palace, reminding me of what I had lost. And as dawn began to break, I realized that perhaps this was the price of truth, to be left standing in the ruins of one's own honesty, crowned not with glory, but with regret. The nights have grown quieter since she left. The halls that once echoed with her laughter now hum only with the sound of the wind pressing against stone. I used to find peace in silence, but now it feels like punishment, a constant reminder of the words I never said, the apologies that came too late. I walk these corridors like a ghost wearing a crown, haunted not by the dead, but by the living memory of her eyes, They were the last bit of light in this kingdom of shadows, and now, without them, even the dawn seems reluctant to rise. Days pass, and yet I find myself standing in the same places. The balcony where she used to watch the sunsets, the library where her voice once danced between the shelves. Everything I touch carries her imprint, as though the world itself refuses to forget her, even when she has already forgotten me. The advisors speak to me about treaties, alliances, and borders, but I barely hear them. What is a kingdom worth when the heart of its ruler lies buried beneath regret? I wear the crown, I play the role, but the man beneath it has vanished somewhere in the echo of her name. Sometimes at night, I still talk to her, to the emptiness where she used to stand. I tell her things I couldn't when she was here. How every decision I made after her departure has been an attempt at redemption. How I've begun to undo what I once did in the name of power. I've released prisoners, rebuilt homes, and knelt before those who once feared me. They call it wisdom, I call it mourning, because every act of kindness I offer to this world feels like a letter I can never send to her, proof that I am trying to be the man she once believed I could be. But redemption is a cruel illusion. No matter how many loves I try to heal, the ghosts of the past still linger. I see their faces in the reflection of my wine, in the shimmer of my sword, in the cracks of the marble floor. I tell myself that I did what was necessary, that the fire I started saved countless others, but the lie grows weaker with each passing night. Maybe this is my penance, to rule forever in peace, knowing I built that peace on the bones of the innocent. Maybe that is why the crown grows heavier, because every ounce of gold carries the weight of my sins. The court still sees me as their prince, unshaken, poised, untouchable. But they don't see the tremor in my hands when I lift a goblet. They don't see how I flinch when I hear footsteps that sound like hers. They don't see how I stare too long at the horizon, waiting for a silhouette that will never appear. I've learned that strength is not in holding a sword, nor in commanding armies. It's in surviving the silence left by the one person who once understood your heart. And in that silence, I've learned the cruelest truth, that love does not end when it's lost. It lingers, reshaping everything it once touched. There are moments when I imagine her returning, walking through those palace gates, her eyes meeting mine once more. I imagine what I'd say, how I'd tell her that I've changed, that the man she loved was reborn in the ashes she left behind. But then reality breaks through the fantasy, reminding me that she is gone not because of fate, but because of my choices. And choices, once made, cannot be undone. So I bow to the ghosts of my own making, whispering promises into the air, hoping that somewhere she still feels them. And yet, even now, I cannot bring myself to hate the truth, because the truth was the only honest thing I ever gave her. I lost her because I finally became real, not the prince wrapped in golden lies, but the man beneath the ruin. Perhaps that is how love truly tests us, by breaking us open, until only the rawest version of ourselves remains. So if she remembers me at all, I hope she remembers not the prince who ruled, but the man who confessed, the man who loved her enough to let her go, even when it meant living in a kingdom built on silence.